You're live. Hello, everyone. Hello, and welcome to the Peapod. This is a podcast dedicated to exploring the depths of peace in our lives and our world. I'm Terry Angel, your host, and I invite you to join me in a journey of discovery, inspiration, and some transformation. In a world often filled with noise, conflict, and uncertainty, the Peapod offers a sanctuary, a space where we can pause, reflect, and explore what it truly means to cultivate peace within ourselves and in our relationships with others. Each episode, we delve into a different aspect of peace, from personal stories of resilience and growth to conversations with experts and thought leaders in the field of peace building and mindfulness. We'll also explore the power of art, music, literature in fostering peace and understanding. Our goal is simple: to spark meaningful conversations, inspire positive change, and empower you to be a beacon of peace in your own life and your community. So, whether you're seeking guidance, inspiration, or simply a moment of calm, I invite you to tune into the Peapod. Together, let's explore the infinite possibilities of peace and create a more harmonious world, one episode at a time. Please help me today to welcome Terry Wildemann and Dr. Ruth Anderson to the Peapod.
Hi, guys.
Terry is an intuitive business and wellness consultant for spiritual entrepreneurial neural leaders. That's a big word. At risk of burnout. Her 35 years of expertise have earned her the nickname the Intuitive Truth Detective. Among her clients, Terry's gift of pinpointing and clearing deeply rooted, unseen issues navigates her clients to skillfully integrate the spiritual, personal, and practical components of business and life. Her insights are driven by her proprietary shiftology process, and I hope she's going to share about that today, powered by intuition and her holistic strategy for cultivating leadership and health, wealth and health. So welcome, Terry.
I'm so
And
excited to be here with you.
sitting beside of me is Dr. Ruth Anderson, who probably needs not much of an introduction to you all. You see her daily on Enlightened World Network. Ruth is the founder of Enlightened World Network. Enlightened World Network. I can't talk. You two are going to do all the talking during this show because obviously my mouth is not working right. But Ruth is a dear friend of mine. I would say my best friend, and has encouraged me and inspired me in so many ways, as she has thousands and thousands of others with the work that she does through Enlightened World Network. So we're just going to sit together and see what happens. We don't have an agenda, as I never have an agenda for the Peapod anyway, but we're just going to see what comes up and what Spirit wants us to talk about. And I think it's going to be fun. What do you guys say?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Absolutely. Except they're not giving me anything.
Terry, shiftology sounds really interesting, and I think there may be people that are curious about what that's all about. Would you like to share about it?
Sure, I'd love to. I've owned Shiftology, the domain shiftology.com, since, I think like 2010, something like that. And Spirit, just like intuitive leadership, I've had that since 2005, 2006. And I just put it in, Spirit gave it to me, but it wasn't until years later that I ended up applying them to the processes that I've created. And Shiftology, the first four letters of shift is spirit, honor, integrity, freedom, and trust. So all of those pieces are part of my Shiftology process and actually we have the Shiftology accountability matrix, which is the actual program that we offer for weeks on end that guide people to be held accountable on a daily basis on we clear out old habits that aren't working and we shift into new habits that do work. Simple things like 15 minutes a day, we meditate, or whatever it is that they want to put in there. And involved with the shiftology process is also the vision and vibe workshop, where we create a vision board. So they actually it's all customized to the individual. They create their own shiftology process. I hold them accountable to it, along with the vision board, to assist them to reach their goals. Because if there isn't accountability, most people have a hard time without having somebody sort of kicking them in the tail to get things done. So shiftology is all about shifting from where you are to where you want to be, but doing it from being fully present in the moment.
I love that. And you're so right. Sometimes we just need that other eye on us, right? Somebody to say, hey, what are you doing? You know, and not in a judgmental way, but in a loving way.
That's exactly right. And it's when you realize that there are areas in your life, and this is the key, I think, with coaching or with anybody who works in the lives of other people, the key is to recognize where the holes are, but doing it in a way that they feel safe. And that loving place makes them feel safe. Yeah. Yeah.
So important to feel safe. That's our root chakra. That's where when change and shift happen, we might get kind of wobbly,
Well,
right?
we get very wobbly. Change is hard. And all three of us have gone through a lot of change. We know about what change is. And the moment that change happens, we get affected in so many areas, so many ways in our bodies, and our bodies will tell us. A lot of the aches and pains that we suffer from is emotional stuff related to the changes that we're experiencing or have experienced in the past. That's why I love working with the emotion code and body code, which I'm certified in, to be able to clear out the emotional junk, the emotional baggage that's there, that gets in our way of being able to do the things we really want to do in a strong, powerful, grounded way.
Mm. So, Ruth, I know you know about grounding and shifts and changes. So, do you have a favorite grounding method that you use?
I ground through meditation, and really, I mean, Terry, you and I do it every week. But really just starting with the root chakra and bringing all of my energy down to that root chakra, and then envisioning roots growing down my legs and out through my feet down into the center of Mother Earth. But I think what's been so interesting with grounding in the last, I don't know, 4 months maybe, when Terry and I go in and ground during our meditations, they've been having us hear and feel and connect into a global heartbeat. Yes. And that came in about 4 months ago, right? Mm-hmm. And now whenever we ground, that's part of it, is feeling that global heartbeat. I don't know, to me, that was just a very profound shift.
Mm-hmm. That's huge.
Wow. It is, isn't it? And it's so beautiful, because we when we're doing like a heart-brain coherence, and Terry, I know you're familiar with that one as well.
Very.
We actually do hear our own heartbeat. That's what we're connecting into, the heart of our soul. And that physical heartbeat just shows us that there is a rhythm to everything. And we connect in with the rhythm of spirit, the rhythm of the universe, the rhythm of Mother Gaia. So I think that's so beautiful that now we've gone deeper, because that's what's needed right now in our world. And Terry, I really appreciate the work that you're doing, because you take people deeper.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And it really takes people, it's about having them look in the mirror. And if they're willing to look in the mirror, then I can really work with them. If they're not willing to look in the mirror and shift, it's something that they're not ready yet to go to really clear things out. And when you were talking about the heart-brain coherence, there is an exercise, that's all heart math, the heart and the brain coherence. And I'm a licensed heart math provider. And one of the things that I'll never forget, I was watching one of their videos when I was in training, and it's a video of a person on a train. I don't know if you've seen it. And the music is, they're looking outside, and the music is really hard and clashy and just, oh, and they're looking at all these different scenes with this really harsh music. And then the same visual is repeated, the person on the train, and the music is soft and loving, looking at the exact same thing. And the perspective is so different. It is a completely different perspective. So when you think of how what we look at affects us, based on, and how we think about what we look at, when you look at how music affects us, and you look at how everything, we're affected by everything. Everything is energy. Everything is energy. I think you've heard me several times say the story of my godfather, who was a radiologist. When I told him I was studying Reiki all the way back when, in 1998, he said to me in Spanish, Ana Teresa, todo es energía. Ana Teresa, everything is energy. And he ran around the kitchen and the house, touching everything. Everything is energy. And it is. And when we're willing to look in the mirror, we get to see what energy is looking back at us. And then we can start to work, and you get to decide what music you want to hear on that train. Do you want to hear the chaotic music that makes what you look at outside really harsh and terrible? Or beautiful music that makes what you're looking outside the exact same thing in gratitude and appreciation?
I don't think I saw that exact video when I was doing the training, but I've noticed it in myself. If there's music that is not resonating with my energy, everything just feels like it's out of whack, and I'm very off balance. But if I turn on a beautiful meditation music, or something that I do resonate with, I like several genres of music, everything gets into a flow.
Mm-hmm.
That's the difference. And that's when we start seeing things with a different perspective, is when we're in flow ourselves. And, Dr. Wayne Dyer was teaching us that, when you change the way that you're looking at things, and the way would be in calm, peaceful state, as opposed to a state, whatever you would call that.
Exactly.
Uh,
Exactly.
yeah, then you're going to see it differently.
Mm-hmm. It really is. And your thoughts really are so powerful, in that oftentimes what we're really looking at is not really what we're looking at. It's not reality. We end up sometimes seeing things that, there's a phrase, and Ruth, you and I were talking about it today earlier, in, we may think that something right now is honestly true, and later on it's not. We find out that we may have honestly believed it, but later on it wasn't true. So it's about staying open with the music in our heads and the music in our hearts, and staying open to the possibilities. So yes, you're spot on with that, in terms of how we see things really affects everything around us and what we listen to.
Oh, absolutely. And who we listen to. Yeah. Yeah. I'd love to get both of your viewpoints about changing our beliefs, because, when we come into the world, we start immediately being taught how to be, taught who we are and what we're all about. But as we grow and learn more things, we take a look at those beliefs. And that's my viewpoint, is we might think for a while that that's the way it is. Like you were saying, Terry, that's just the way it is. But what happens when we find out, no, there are other options, there are other things to look at. So I'd really love to hear from both of you about, the shift that we can make to look at our belief systems.
I'll give a quick little example. So the home that I've been living in for the last couple of years, something changed and I could not use Messenger on my laptop at all. I couldn't receive anything. I couldn't send anything. And I thought, okay, something's wrong with my laptop and I can't do Messenger. And I came over to where Terry's staying and Messenger works on my laptop. And I thought, oh, it's not my laptop at all. For 2 years, I thought it was my laptop and it wasn't. And at the same time, Terry and I had gone into meditation together. And the message for us that day was last Sunday was basically, as you have known things to be, you've created your belief system, you've done actions based on that, you've said words based on that. And now let's look at life from a different perspective. Let's kind of clean the slate and be open to learning things differently. And I think no fault of anybody's that they've created their belief systems on what they believe to be true, but to be open to, oh, perhaps there's another way of looking at that, or perhaps that's all smoke and mirrors and there's some other reality that then we'll try on for a while and create belief systems and actions based on that. And then in 3 or 4 years, find out, oh, there's another way. So I just think it's kind of like a rotating kind of kaleidoscope. Is that what they call it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Nothing is the same forever.
That's right. That's right. It's funny using the computer theme. Just earlier, this weekend, I was working on my website because there's a lot of changes going on in my business and where I'm redirecting things. And I went to work on the website, and I couldn't delete certain things. I couldn't do certain things. I'm like, what is going on here? And I worked for about 2 hours struggling. And I finally said, that's it. I got to go back in history and go back to what it was, because this is just taking too much time. And I think I'm being given a message that this is not the right time to do this. And I find that every single time I have technology issues, every time without fail, it's my guides, the universe, whoever you wanted to call it, telling me I need to redirect and do something else. And I went back, I guess, what's today, Tuesday, yesterday, and I was able to update the website. Go figure.
It was like you with your cover of your book.
Yeah, struggled with it for a week. A whole week. I wasted. And nothing was working. It was not falling into place. And it was, I believe, the act of letting it go. Not having to be the one in control, not having to be the one that says it has to be this way, and I'm going to make it work. Darn it, I'm going to make that square fit into a round hole, and letting it go, and then asking somebody else, an outside observer, to help me do this. It worked perfectly. Just in that little bit of time, after a week of trying it myself and working with it.
And that's something I think we need to listen to. I don't like to use the word need, because need is equal to lack. But when we are always struggling, that surrender piece, we gain control when we give up control. We gain control when we give up control. And
Profound.
well, it is. And I can give you story after story after story of controlling things and trying to control things. And that word trying means there's always a way out, and all of a sudden just saying, okay, I get the message and I'm done. And everything falls into place on its own, because I stepped away and I stopped trying to make it my way. And guess what? The way it ended up unfolding was a bazillion times better.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what's so cool. It's like, okay, glad I listened. You know?
But isn't it interesting how I know we're all teachers and coaches and mentors, how we can be so profound with other people and share with them what needs to be done, or what would be the
Yeah.
best way for something to take place. But when it comes to our own selves and doing the things we're doing, it's like, I know I can make this happen.
Yeah. And what I notice when we do that, when we keep pushing and pushing and pushing through like that, I notice that our bodies start to hurt. Our bodies there's aches, there's pains, um, we start dropping things. We start, there's different things that are happening. And those are all clues for us to take a step back and to listen to our bodies. The drill when our shoulders are killing us. Well, what are you shouldering that you need to let go of? When your eyes are bugging you, what do you need to see that you don't want to see? When your teeth issues, what details of life do you need to let go of, or what details do you need to look at? That kind of thing. I see so much of that going on. And even with, the hips and the knees and the ankles, there's so many people in my world have their challenges with hips, knees, and ankles. And these are entrepreneurs who are actually, when they finally come to me, they tend to be very inflexible in wanting to shift the way they see things and do things. And that inflexibility, their subconscious knows, but they consciously keep doing the same thing. And it's like, okay, let's take a step back. Like with what you were saying, let's look at another way of doing things. Let's surrender and let go and allow the universe to talk to us so that our body doesn't hurt so much. Our body is a phenomenal tool for giving us information. Phenomenal tool.
Yeah, I say that all the time. Listen to your body. It's going to tell you what's best for you.
Mm-hmm. It will, but we're stubborn and we don't listen.
Well, some of us listen sometimes. Yeah, it is. It's very phenomenal. And we don't have to tell our heart to beat. We don't have to tell our lungs to breathe in air. Everything works just so methodically and so beautifully. And how can we argue that there's not a creator that made us this perfect?
Yeah.
It's just miraculous when you think about how everything just works without being told, without being given a set of instructions. It just does what it's supposed to do, what it was made to do. And I love that. And if we allow it, it will work to perfection.
It will.
We want
And
to take
you're
that
absolutely
control
right.
back.
If we allow it. And if we allow it, however, so many of us don't listen to it because we don't believe that our body is giving us messages. It's that mind-body connection that's so big. And the proof, Dr. Joe Dispenza is amazing. Look at what he did, his broken back from that accident, being told that he was paralyzed, and then just using the power of his mind, because that's all he had at that point. Using the power of his mind, within 12 weeks, doctors told him he'd be paralyzed the rest of his life and in a wheelchair. And by using that power, and because he was a chiropractor, he was able to visualize every part of his body and knit it back together again. And within 12 weeks, he was back on a bike. Our bodies are very powerful, but so are our minds and our thoughts and how we use them. If you're negative all the time and you got aches and pains, listen.
Yeah, it does affect the physical body. Our
Mhm.
mind state determines how well we're going to make it through this world. Yeah, the body's going to start breaking down. I know you've had the training with heart brain, and they explain how the cells regenerate when you do that heart brain.
They do.
And yeah, and they become perfect again. And I do it twice a day. I've been doing it for, I think, about 8 years now. And it really works well. It's anti-aging because it does repair those cells. And you're no longer the biological age that you should be, that you just keep going backwards because you're repairing everything when you do that.
Exactly. We have our bodies are amazing. I think I read recently our bodies are meant to last 200 years, but the way we treat them, that's not happening. But certain pockets of the world, it does because of the way they care for their bodies. And they don't have a lot of stress.
Right. And staying productive. I remembered that very clearly from my training. Greg Braden was the teacher, and he shared about people that he'd interviewed all over the world that were over 100 years old. Some of them, I think the oldest one that he shared with us was like 160 years old.
Yeah.
He said the secret to that longevity was staying productive, keeping busy, doing things, being given a task, and keeping the mind active and the body active.
And that's really so true. My husband retired last year, and his life has quickly filled up with different things because the man doesn't stay still. And people say to me, well, your husband retired. When are you going to retire? I'm an entrepreneur. I'm never going to retire. No, I'm going to be doing this until the day I'm in a box. It when you're productive and you can keep your mind sharp and you are doing things, especially if you're doing things out of love, you know that love, what it does biologically and physiologically to the body is huge. Some folks, though, have a hard time loving themselves. So Ruth, well, you and I had a conversation about that once. What are your thoughts on that?
Folks loving themselves. I think it's probably one of the hardest life lessons for folks to learn. I mean, some folks come by it easily, and the rest of us, I think, particularly women, and maybe that's just because guys don't talk about it as freely. Maybe they, are just as hard on themselves as we are. But I think women in particular, I'm not sure society ever told us it was okay to love ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, think of I don't want to use the word wrong, but think of the martyrs that raised us and the martyrs that raised them and the martyrs that raised them. I mean, women have been workhorses for the families for generations and generations. So that's what we were steeped in. So I think for some of us, it's a lifelong lesson, and one that I'm trying to change with the generation below me. And I know, Terry, you as a mother too.
Absolutely.
Trying to stop that nonsense of this generation.
Yeah.
And it really does start with us because we are in the position to stop the chaos. We're in the position to cut the cord with that. And every single day when we wake up and bring in love, even before we get out of bed, gratefulness, appreciation for everything that we have, that influences our DNA. And my goal is to cut the cord with, and break the chain with me. The buck stops here because I don't want my children to be carrying all that stuff. So when I heal it in myself with different tools and techniques that I have, I know I'm healing it in them too. And I'm healing it in mom and grandmom and granddad and all those folks that have gone on before us. But yeah, it's really up to us, I believe, to take responsibility and clean things up within ourselves, and that energetically cleans it up at the rest of the chain.
Yeah, that's so true. And I think that we've come a long way with understanding what loving ourselves means. I think when in my generation, when I was growing up, I didn't know what love was. I didn't have a good role model to say this is what unconditional love is. It was all based on conditions. And also, if you said you loved yourself, it was like, oh, you're just egotistical, and you're one of those with your nose up in the air. So I think we've come a long way from that type of thinking. And we do have role models now that are showing us what unconditional love is. And programs like what Enlightened World Network has on, that's very positive and showing role models that are out there teaching and mentoring and coaching others in loving themselves and what it means. It took me most of my life to figure out what love was and what it wasn't. And I had very much a distorted view of what love was. So I had to discover it, later in life and say, oh, you can love somebody without, a string attached to that. You can just love them. And that's huge. And if we can teach our children that, like Ruth, you're doing a great job teaching your daughters that, and that I just love you, and letting them be, just let our youth be who they are, and without all of that negativity, you can't, all the limits, you can't do this, you can't do that, but just love them.
Well, and I think sometimes if you can interject the word self-worth for self-love, makes a difference too. I hear my daughter talk about her self-worth.
Yeah.
And therefore what she's willing to put up with and what she's not willing to put up with. And I think, good for you. If I had that wisdom at 22, Lord knows how my life would have been different. Truly,
mine would have been totally different.
Totally different. Yeah.
Yeah. We have messages all around us that tap into love yourself. And one of them is when we fly. And the flight attendant says, put the oxygen mask on yourself first. That's self-care. And I will never forget when I was delivering a workshop at the local chamber here. And this woman sat there and I happened to say that. And she said, oh, I'm sorry, I have to put it on my child first. And I didn't have to say a word because another attendee said, oh, that's great. And then your kid's going to have a dead mother. And she's like, what are you talking about? She really couldn't grasp that concept at first. Because as moms, what do? We're there for our kids. But if we're there for our kids to a point where we croak, they're not going to have us there. So yeah, it is important to put the oxygen mask on ourselves first, and then put it on our children. And every time I fly, I'm like, preach it, girl, preach it, preach it, preach it, or preach it, whether it's a man or a woman, because that one instance, if everybody's truly listening on the plane, it's a message of self-worth and self-love.
Yeah. And can apply to all of life.
Yep. It really is.
Beautiful. So what do you think our greatest challenges in these days?
About 5 things came into my brain when you asked that. I think a lot of it is listening to our gut, listening to our intuition. You know me, I'm an intuition junkie, as the two of you are. You're all about intuition. And we avoid listening to our gut because, and we avoid even talking about it because we're so concerned about what other people think. Just yesterday, I was speaking with someone who is in a very professional field. She's in the legal field. And she, after we talked and I told her what I do, she says, I don't tell anybody, but I'm a tarot reader. And I have to be very careful who I say that to, because it could affect my career.
Sure.
And I thought, oh, how sad is that? That,
Very.
it is very, very sad. And, I think that's the challenge that we have, that people, intuition is not mystical. Intuition is in us. It's not this mystical thing out here. It is a tool that we are born with. And when we accept that, it helps us with the practical side of our world as well as the emotional side of our world. And when people get that their intuition is something to always listen to, especially in business, the top CEOs in our world, they listen to their gut. They listen to their intuition. They listen to what's next. And they really have, a lot of them really have it. And when we use it for good, and our gut tells us when something is wrong, something isn't right. We have three brains: our head, our heart, and our gut. The gut is actually a brain. There are brain cells, and they've found brain cells in our guts. And the intuition, the intuitive piece, and I was watching the Gaia channel the other day. There's a wonderful show called Superpower that I absolutely love. And in episode number 3, there is Rick Snyder talking about business intuition. And he amplified, intuition is not, it's not mystical. It's a grounded tool that when we use it, the guidance is amazing. But we're too scared to trust it. We run away from it. And that's why in my work, it really is about teaching entrepreneurs how to trust their intuitive sides, how to trust that intuitive place inside of them. Because once they do that, then it begins to create the calm, ease, and flow that they're looking for, whether it's in business or in life. So that's why, for me, intuition is the one thing that people avoid listening to, and it's the one thing they truly would benefit from in listening to.
Beautiful. What are your thoughts about that?
Well, my biggest challenge, I think, is along the same lines, Terry, in the sense of the words "remember who you truly are" is what comes to my mind. And when I say that, what that means to me is remembering that I am, number one, a spiritual being who happens to be in a body going through this thing we call life. But I don't have to get into the muck and the mire of all of everything that's happening around me. When I can sit in my oneness with spirit, then I can fall back on everything is love and everything is energy, and live in that realm. All the rest just kind of falls into place for me. So remember who you truly are. What do you think, Terry?
Yeah, I think a big challenge we have in this day and time is we're bombarded by so much. There's so many distractions, and we tend to complicate everything. So we have so many choices, so many options, from the way to do things, the food we eat, what our activities are, what we're going to be. I've been many things in this one lifetime. I've been like 10 different people in this lifetime. So I think just bringing it down to simple is a big challenge for us. And like you said, we're just sitting with spirit. It's so simple. It doesn't cost you anything just to sit and meditate and get instructions from the angels, from God, from whoever you listen to. And I think that's a part of our youth these days too, because, they have so much. I never had a phone when I was growing up, and here the kids have a phone that can connect them anywhere in the world, just in the palm of their hand. So I think it's great that we have come so far with technology, but I think we really need to teach the children to have that meditation time, to have the quiet time, to figure out who they are without all of the stuff telling them who they are or how they should act, how they should dress, how they should talk. Get to know who you are. We had to do it growing up. I'm speaking for myself, my generation. We had to figure out who we were, without seeing a role model that was showing us, the latest and greatest of whatever it might be. So I think it's keeping it simple is a challenge for all of us, not just the kids, especially for the kids, but for all of us these days, to not get so distracted that we forget who we are. We forget that we are a spirit being. And sometimes it's easy to get caught up in that 3D stuff.
Like,
Go ahead. Go ahead.
the phones are like umbilical cords. It's a constant feeding of all of those things that you listed, including where I get my self-worth from. And it has to do with how many people are liking me at this very moment.
How many followers do we have?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And as long
And
as
it's not just the kids, their
Yeah.
parents are doing the same thing. So if their parents are doing the same thing, the kids then are doing it. Where's the connection? There's no human connection anymore. Families don't sit together at dinner anymore. And that in our household was a must. You had to sit together for dinner. It's about the phones going away. It's about putting all that stuff away. And you don't see that. I wish there was more of that and that connection. And the kids are any and every teenager has always worried about what other people think about them. Unfortunately, with social media, it is now, and the parents really have a challenge on their hands. They really, really do. And I often look at our world, and the word that comes to me is kindness. Where is kindness?
Kindness.
Kindness. Where is the kindness? And I say that because when I do go on social media, which I do for my business, and I'd start scrolling and seeing things, there is a lack of kindness. People hide behind the computer screens. People are hiding behind their phones. And people think they can say, they have the right to say anything and everything, not realizing the ramifications of their words and how it may hurt someone or bring someone down. So I'm grateful for the computer. I really am. I'm grateful for the internet. I'm grateful for all the things that I can do on it. But that lack of kindness is something that has been concerning me more and more, because the way people are hiding behind these computer screens to just let it all out, which tells me how angry our world is. So what you're doing with the peace and Ruth, with what you're doing with your work, with the two of you, it's magnificent and it's much needed.
And you as well, my dear. Thank you for all that you do.
Well, one of the pieces that concerns me about this umbilical cord is how addictive it is, because you can lose hours, whether it's TikTok or Facebook or whatever. And it's not conscious.
Right.
It's just unconscious waste of time. And while you're in that space of waste of time, life is passing you by.
Oh, yeah.
It is. It really is. A very good friend of mine, very, very close friend, he recently told me that he got off of social media 2 weeks ago. We're going on now on 3 weeks. And he said, it's amazing. I have my life back.
Mhm. There's a
He
world
goes,
out there.
it is. He goes in and he does a couple things for a group that he does, but he says, I don't go on there anymore. I do very little on social media anymore. He said, it has given me freedom that I have missed.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, one of my most memorable weeks out of the last almost 4 years now that I've been doing this Peace on Earth tour was a place I went into in Nevada, and it was totally unplugged. There was no phone service. There was no internet. You were just there with nature. And that was one of the most beautiful weeks I've spent.
Thank
Just, just being,
you.
and not being tied to anything other than just sitting and communing with nature, communing with God, having instruction from the angels. I mean, it was just beautiful. And we forget that there is a world. It's like that phone, that connection, that's people's worlds.
Right.
And they think that that is it. That's all there is. And it's not. It's
not.
so not it.
It's not. And to get back to that kindness, when we sit in nature and we sit with God, we're kind to ourselves.
Yeah.
It's such a, when you're kind to yourself, it's a form of self-love.
Absolutely.
So some people can't go to love, but they can go to kindness.
Mhm.
It's a step. It's a step. So could I come with you on your next trip?
Oh, please do. I would love that company.
Sounds wonderful.
Yeah. Oh, ladies, this has been great. I am talking about time flying. When you're sitting in spirit and you're sitting with people that are like-minded, this is what happens. It's like, it seems like it's only been a minute, but I want to thank you both for being here and thank all the listeners for listening to these two amazing powerhouses of love and light. And we'll start with Terry. Terry, would you share with everyone how they can reach out to you, how they can work with you if they wish? I know you offer so much to the world, so please share that.
Well, you can reach me at terrywildemann.com. Well, terrywildemann.com takes me to my speaker page, but intuitiveleadership.com will take you to my website. And just note, it is being revamped and the universe lets me do it. You can find me on Facebook at Terry Wildemann, or Intuitive Leadership is the business page. I'm also on LinkedIn under Terry Wildemann and on Instagram at Terry Wildemann. So there you go. I'm all over the place.
And I'll make sure that everybody understands the spelling of your name, because for I think the first year or so that I knew you, I was putting an R in there.
That's my husband's problem. That's his name.
We'll blame it on him. Oh, Terry, you're a delight. Thank you so much for all of your insight and your openness and your words of wisdom today. Appreciate being here. And that takes us to Dr. Ruth Anderson.
So I can be found at enlightenedworld.online. That's the website for Enlightened World Network. And there's an email address on there. I think it's welcome@enlightenedworld.something. I never write to it, so that I don't know. But go to the website if you're interested. I do work with one-on-one with clients. I know Terry does as well, as does Terry. So if there's anything that any of the three of us could do, just please reach out.
Yes, if anything has triggered you today and you would like to know more about it or discuss it with someone, just pick one, choose one, and whichever one you resonates, which one of us you resonate with, and reach out. Ruth has programs every day on Enlightened World Network. There's always a meditation, as well as other informational and educational programs. And they're all very inspiring, that will be uplifting and positive, because that's the whole goal, is put more positive into the world. That's what I try to do every day. And hopefully you've gotten some positive from this today and something to make you think, because that's also what I like to do, is just encourage people, use your brain, think for yourself. And we spoke earlier about belief systems. So look at your beliefs, always examine them. I love Don Miguel Ruiz wrote the 4 Agreements, but many people don't know there's a 5th agreement that he wrote. And the 5th agreement is to be skeptical and open-minded. And I love that. So that's my encouragement to everyone today. Thank you for being here. Blessings to every one of you. And I love you so much. Take care, everyone. I will see you next week on the Peapod. Namaste, y'all. Bye,
y'all.
girls. Up here.